as we work our way towards the opening race of the weekend. It's the shortest one, but let's take you to the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid. And as we've already detailed, a tremendous effort from Garth Tander and Jason Bright. Less than a tenth of a second between them. And the points leader shares the second row with his brother. Courtney very strong here. Stephen Richards very strong. And then the 888 pairing of Lowndes and Whincup further back. And sadly for Greg Murphy, he was relegated to 10th position.
That just came through a few moments ago. A breach of the spark advance rule outside the parameters allowed. Frustration for him. Been a little while since we've seen Murph in a better starting position, and when you infringe like that, then it's very frustrating for the driver to end up going back to 10th, so he'll be on the 5th row of the grid. Also, you'll see very shortly as we move through the field, Russell Ingall there in position 19. Paul Morris has been moved to the rear of grid after being involved in an incident balking Jason Bargwanna on the fast lap in qualifying. So unfortunately, a couple of guys falling foul there. We also raised earlier in the day the question mark as to whether or not Jamie Whincup infringed by running outside the white line on the exit of turn 4 in the shootout, but that was deemed to be not the case. And so no problem there with car number 88, the better electrical Ford for Jamie.
Newcomer to the series, Chris Pither, is in the 021 Team Kiwi Racing Commodore. We had Craig Baird in Tasmania, but Craig is over in New Zealand at the moment racing his Porsche. So there you have it for race 1, the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid as the cars roll and the clouds roll in. As I said right at the top of the show, can you believe it? We've had rain this week since we've been here. We're in the middle of the desert, and yes, rain. So we will keep a very close eye on that, and so too are the teams. We had a few little drops earlier today, but nothing major yet.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I was just outside a moment ago, and the air temperatures dropped. We had a very warm day yesterday. Lots of ultraviolet light on the racetrack. They came out today for qualifying in the shootout as we looked through all of the different onboard cameras and positions in the cars here, cycling through Max Wilson, Stephen Richards, who just aligns himself there to a mark that he has on the wall so that he knows that he's absolutely spot on position. Murph.
And Neil, too, just a quick temperature update. Everybody looking skyward as you talk about the conditions here. 26 degrees ambient, 28 on track. Spare a thought for the young blokes too. Jack Perkins conducting his first ever international race of any kind. And young Chris Pither filling in at Team Kiwi for the injured Paul Radicic, and for Craig Baird, who's competing in Porsches in New Zealand. Chris's first main game V8 supercar race. Never done a pit stop of any kind before, not even in simulation. He's about to find out what that's like.
And as you can see there, it is Formula 1 style staggered start. So Tander already has a brief advantage over Jason Bright.
And starts from the left-hand side of the road, which is the racing line, the clean line for the run down to turn 1. We've got a green flag at the rear of the field, so we're just about set to blast off for this 27-lap first of 3 for the weekend.
We've got similar feelings to what we did last year in Shanghai. This is a significant moment in the history of V8 supercars, performing in the Middle East for the first time. Bright looked like he got a good jump. Tander immediately comes over, and Todd Kelly tries to swamp Jason Bright. Courtney with an excellent start as well. Looks like Rick Kelly is tucked in behind his brother. Here comes Scaife up into the mix. And Courtney goes round the outside of Todd Kelly. Great start from the Stone Brothers Ford.
Huge congestion through turns 1 and 2. Everybody will be back to first gear there and jostling for a spot in the run-up here to turn 4.
Well, we thought there was going to be action at turn 1, and we commend everybody because they've got through cleanly. But they are spread. Boy, have they been shuffled. Into turn 6 on the opening lap. They climb the hill. And the two Jack Daniels cars together. Stephen Richards, Paul Dumbrell.
It was something of a miracle to get all those cars through the first 4 turns cleanly. There was a little bit of rubbing, but no catastrophe there.
The two DJR Fords of Stephen Johnson, Will Davison have pounced on Greg Murphy, so he's gone backwards, but here comes Murph. He fights alongside Stephen Johnson. We go on board Stephen Richards.
Craig Lowndes has already been on the radio to his man back at the 888 Racing Garage, and they've just been conversing about the start that Craig had. Craig lost a spot on that start. He's told Campbell Little that he's okay. The point about all this was just to have a nice clean start. Campbell saying that's just a long way to go. Championship to think about. He slipped Tasmania. This is about putting points in the bank for Craig Lowndes.
They're all really focusing on driving the cars very straight in these early laps to not excite the rear tyres too much.
Trouble there. Bargwanna came through on the inside on Canto, and Winterbottom was right there as well. And Bargwanna, I can tell you, is pretty wound up at the moment because he was on a lap good enough to get in the top 10 shootout. And as Neil mentioned a few moments ago, he got balked by Paul Morris. So he was quite filthy about that. So he's trying to make up for lost ground. Here's Lowndes.
And car number 10, Jason Bargwanna, that you speak of there, Lee, has had a... the officials have noted that the window is popping out of that car, the Perspex window, so they need to have a long, hard look at that just to make sure that everything is safe. This is up at the back end of the circuit, turns 7 and 8.
And then again, pictures don't really do it justice. This is quite a severe downhill run. Little hump in the middle, and they dive down towards turn 9.
Half a second margin for Garth Tander at the end of the standing lap. Bright Courtney, both the Kellys, Whincup, Scaife, Dumbrell, Richards, Lowndes, Davison. Scaife's made a little bit of ground. 1:24.9 for Garth Tander that lap. And a margin out to 1.4 seconds. So a good first flying lap for Tander. You could see when cars moved to the inside before, that dust swirling as they went off the race line. The track is very dirty off race line, and there's a constant film of dust in the air here as we ride with Stephen Richards, the Zinger replay. That's James Courtney darting to the right. Lowndes made a position, so did Scaife, so that's where he got some gain, and his teammate Paul Dumbrell, and they argued their way down to this turn 1 right-hander first gear.
He lost 4 positions, 6th to 10th. Down into turn 1. Darryl.
Lee had a chat to Rick Kelly before the start of this race, and Rick was like, I've got to do what I've got to do here and stay out of trouble. They felt that having clear air was going to be extra critical here with the big stops and the brakes. Rick said a lot of people have been fading towards the end of the sessions and locking up those rear brakes, so clear air was important for him. And a lot of the team managers I spoke to before the start of this race felt that the teams would be in within the first or second lap when the window opened for those new tyres.
That Perspex window, which was a cause for concern for Jason Bargwanna, has managed to come out. The officials have it, so Bargwanna is cleared to continue racing. Jason Bright has been expressing some concern about possible brake locking to his engineer, Phil Keane. Phil's been watching it quite closely on the data. He says no concerns with brake locking. Let's just get on with the job.
Lap 5 to 26 is the window where drivers have the opportunity to come in and do that compulsory stop. Good stoush here between both the Perkins Motorsport Jack Daniels cars. They are currently arguing over 8th and 9th. New fastest lap of the race then, Jason Bright. He's done a 1:24.91. 2 100ths quicker than Garth Tander, and the margin first to second remains at 1.4 seconds. Courtney hanging on. He's got Kelly, that is Todd, breathing all over him at the moment.
Lowndes looks at Dumbrell. No option there. You'll notice the new livery on the Jack Daniels car. That's in line with Bahrain's anti-alcohol advertising policy. They simply have the words "Jack lives here" on the Jack Daniels Commodores. You ride with Lowndes. This is at the top end of the circuit. Whoa, we've had an altercation here. Andrew Jones and Brad Jones. What has happened there?
And there's something wrong with the left rear suspension on that car, and Jose Fernandez may well have been involved as well. You can see it's got steering arm damage on the front left-hand corner of that car. It looks like it might have huge damage on the front of Brad's car. Front left is no longer rotating, and I think this is triggering a full course yellow and the safety car. What happened here? Who was... Okay, so Andrew was basically just the innocent bystander, but there was something else, I think, that triggered Bradley getting into strife there. Need to see it. Here we go. Here's another angle.
So it was
Paul Morris. No, it wasn't. It might have been the other Cirame car, was it?
It was either Paul Morris or Jack Perkins. And Jose Fernandez wasn't involved in that, so he's had his own separate incident.
Yes, car number 67. So Paul Morris was one of the drivers there that was close to that scene. We don't know whether he participated in it or not. And broken the probably the rear, what's called Watts link bolt on Andrew's car, and it's dragging its backside and smoke there. So
Neil, this caution period naturally has prompted a lot of radio chat between the engineers and the drivers. Craig Lowndes, quite a lengthy discussion with Campbell Little about the state of his car. He doesn't sound happy with the balance of the 888 Falcon, I've got to say. He's been talking about a little bit of understeer, a little bit of oversteer. They can't seem to have nailed the sweet spot on that car, despite it being very quick, straight out of the box in the 2-hour practice session. He doesn't feel like he's on top of it right now.
Brad Jones was very upbeat after yesterday's practice session, finished it in 13th place. He said, wow, I could be heading for another Simmons Plains. Well, it has, because it's turned upside down for him as the WPS Chrysler safety car comes out. Just saw in the background of that Zinger replay we had earlier, Jose Fernandez and Chris Pither may have come together. So that was a completely separate incident from the Jones boys as Brad limps the BOC Falcon back to this quite spacious garage area.
yeah, there's
That's it. So it was Steve Owen and Fernandez.
yeah, turn 4, that one, and it's broken the steering arm in the front left-hand corner of that car, and it's got a steering mind of its own at the moment.
So that's why Jose continued on up at turn 6 when he arrived up there. Significant damage to 3 cars. And the interesting point about this is the general chit-chat up and down pit lane because of the immense runoff areas here. Everyone was saying, oh, we won't have any cautions this weekend. If there's a crash or a collision, there's plenty of room to get it cleaned up. Well, we have. In the first handful of laps, we'll be back to Bahrain in just a moment. Welcome back to Bahrain. The field remains behind the WPS safety car, but not for too much longer as we have a look at a Zinger replay. On the inside is Paul Morris. Did he tag him? I would say so. Just ever so slightly in the rear end, enough to turn Brad Jones around, who unfortunately collected his nephew Andrew Jones from Tasman Motorsport and spun him round. And that's Jose Fernandez at the bottom of the screen. Completely different and isolated incident. So 3 cars involved. 31 now becomes 28, and we go racing again. And there was a little bit of niggle there between Todd Kelly and James Courtney. Todd was trying to unsettle James at the restart, and Rick Kelly defends from Whincup. Here we go.
She's on here. Kelly down the inside of Courtney, side to side, grabs a spot. His brother wants to go with him. There's a bit of nose to tail action here at turn 1. The compulsory pit stop window has been extended now to lap 10 as a result of that safety car. So when the leaders completed lap 10, the window will open and they'll consider their stop position depending on the way the cars are feeling and where they are in the field.
As they build back up to speed, here's the order. Tander, Bright, Courtney. You can change that. It's Todd Kelly now, and then Courtney, then Rick Kelly, Whincup, Scaife, Steve Richards, Dumbrell and Lowndes. There's been some shuffling in these early laps.
It's where the cars climb quite substantially uphill into this long double right-hand at turns 7 and 8. It's a 4th gear approach, and then depending on who you talk to, they're either hooking back to 2nd or trying to just stroll the car through in 3rd gear, and then making this run up to 250 kilometres an hour down to turns 9 and 10, to really only 1 corner. 90 k's across the face here is now Rick Kelly grabs a spot from James Courtney, and then firing down the front straight at 275 k's. Darryl?
Neil, Brad Jones, frustration is the only real word to explain that incident.
Absolutely, just really, really disappointing. We had a pretty speedy car in the first practice session yesterday and missed it a bit in qualifying, and you know, when you're caught up in all that rubbish down the back, you know, you get involved in accidents, and I just saw it very early in the race. You know, there's no way Morris was going to slide down the inside of me there. It's just a really, really silly move.
Flyaways are difficult as far as componentry you can take with you. Are you able to fix this car?
Yeah, we got all the bits, you know, and you can bring them all with you, but you can't put common sense somewhere where it's not normally. So, you know, some of us have got that and some of us haven't. As for fixing the car, that won't be a problem. We've got all the bits we need, so we'll sort it out and have a lash at it tomorrow and see what happens.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks.
The old Super Touring sparring partners come together, and Brad lets us know exactly how he feels. And for Paul Morris, who really enjoyed earlier this week, he's had a very troublesome and eventful weekend. He's been penalised a couple of times. His times were excluded from practice and qualifying. So Paul has really been in the thick of it this weekend, as Tander has about a 7/10 of a second lead over Jason Bright, back to Todd Kelly in third. Scaife just gained a position on Stephen Richards. You may have seen that down in turn 1.
And here's the replay of that. You see the brakes on the Richomobile there now. 1:24.9 that lap for Garth Tander, 1:25.2 for Jason Bright. It's a 0.9 of a second margin. And car number 67 has been confirmed drive-through penalty, driving infringement at turn 6 on car number 14. So that's the incident that we were discussing then with Bradley.
Murphy on Dumbrell. This is for a position in the top 10. It's been an improved and spirited performance, but Murphy's now exposed to Will Davison. Davison around the outside for Nick Johnson Racing. Can't do it at turn 4, but that car's got some speed now.
And the slow exit for Will make him vulnerable down here to Mark Winterbottom. He's kind of in no man's land there, not by his own doing. It's just the way things worked. He has got the inside run here. He might be able to have a sneak at Murph down the inside. Winterbottom's trying to go the long way around turn 6. That'll be tough. He crisscrosses now. This is a great battle between these blokes. Look at them side by side. Winterbottom up the inside, but now finds himself awkwardly placed on the dirty line. Tries to crisscross again underneath. Terrific racing.
Will Davison was robbed at Tasmania's Simmons Plains. He should have had a top 5 result there in that third and final race, but he was belted from pillar to post by 3 different drivers and took him out of the running. Well, he's been fast here this weekend in Bahrain, and look at him go, fighting for that spot in the top 10 in the first of 3 races, the shortest race, 100 kilometres, 27 laps. Murphy is under pressure. Dumbrell has been able to escape.
1 second margin exactly now. Garth Tander to Jason Bright. 24.97 for Garth, 25.05 for Jason. So hardly any difference in lap speed. Todd Kelly, Rick Kelly, then Courtney Whincup, Scaife, Stephen Richards, Craig Lowndes, Paul Dumbrell. That's the 10. A little bit more nose to tail action down there at 1, and Winterbottom just touching up the back of Will Davison. Murphy, Davison, Winterbottom, Johnson, Bargwanna. Paul Morris serving that penalty, and the pit window is now open for the compulsory stop.
As you'd imagine, the highly experienced and successful Greg Murphy just positioned his car in the right spot to make it difficult for Davison to go up the inside at turn 1, and then Winterbottom gave him just a slight nudge from behind. First and second, Bright is in second, and then the Kelly boys are coming together. Rick has gained ground on his brother. Here we go. Battle for third. Courtney remains behind these guys in 5th. And then Jamie Whincup, the best of the 888 boys.
Jack Perkins off the road here in the 39 Suramay entry. Just as Greg Murphy's reporting on the radio that he's really now experiencing a loss of rear grip in that car. And this is the thing that we'll need to focus carefully on. The behaviour of the tyres as the race wears on. Will Davison now down the inside of Greg Murphy. So Greg was on the radio talking about battling. He's battling at the moment because he's got a couple of Fords really working him over either side. Winterbottom wants to have a nibble at this as well, as now Davison peels off for his CPS. There's a whole bunch of them in. Bright's... I'm confused
Bright's
there.
in. Bright's got to be in.
Okay, right. Thanks, Lee.
Look at this, look at this. Murphy, he had to give up. Winterbottom had the line. And now that's exposed Murph to Stephen Johnson. There's a flurry of activity in pit lane. The early stoppers.
I think most people are going to end up doing rears here rather than down the side. And a stall at a critical moment there for Rick Kelly.
During his stop, so Brian, good stop.
Good stop too from James Courtney. He got ahead of Todd Kelly and Rick Kelly. So those 2 positions he lost in regular racing, he's gained back in the pits.
Lee, it was a ripper by the Stone brothers, so well done to Paul Forgy, Ben Croke and the crew that work on James Courtney's car. He was out so fast. Brilliant, brilliant work, and they are, most of the teams, from what I can tell, during the course of practice, most people, the school of thought was to change rear tyres, and some interesting incentives here in pit lane as well. well. Roland Dane said to his Triple Eight team in recent rounds, if you can do a sub 3-second stop for 2 tyres, we'll get a bit of an incentive in there for you. And he took some of the crew who achieved that at the Oran Park round on the way over here to Singapore and let them enjoy themselves on the way to Bahrain.
Wow, a couple of interesting things to note there.
Yeah, he got him. I'll tell you, that's not an easy thing to do, climbing up that hill. So that was a great battle. They were just thousandths of an inch apart, side by side, coming down the straight to turn 6.
I reckon one of them was the straight line grunt of the HRT car. The second was the braking capabilities of James Courtney's Ford, and then the smarts of Todd Kelly to over and under him, crisscrossing up the inside and gained that position back. James Courtney, of course, you have to remember, did all of his car racing in Europe, and this, while it's the abbreviated circuit, is a very much a Euro circuit, and James has felt right at home. He's performed very well this weekend. Race leader is in and out.
Lee, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out for Garth Tander, because I think Jason Bright is ahead of him. He is. He had a slow stop. There may have even been a stall, but just the way the traffic panned out through pit lane here, it was not conducive for Garth Tander to be able to avoid that traffic and rejoin the circuit. It's hurt him.
It certainly has. Very, very positive stuff from Bargwanna. He's got out well and got ahead of Will Davis, and that will frustrate the DJR driver for sure. He remains ahead of Murphy. Morris finds himself in the middle of the mix as we go on board with the Kiwi. This has been frantic.
The compulsory stop has done what it's designed to do, and that's to just scatter things a little bit. And that was an interesting exchange between teams in the pit lane, and then how drivers were rejoining, how good they were on the outlap on their cold rear tyres. So Jason Bright has grabbed the lead of this race, and that's a pretty hefty margin back to Garth Tander.
There was nothing between these guys, as we detailed for you earlier, less than 1/10 of a second at the end of the top 10 shootout. However, Tander was able to build quite a healthy lead during his opening stint of the race. Can he respond to Bright? We'll find out, Greg.
Some tyres were out in the lane, Lee, for the series champion Russell Ingall. They had just been rolled away by the Stone brothers, so they're obviously experiencing or toying with the idea of going long for Ingall as far as strategy is concerned. I've just been down to the HSV dealer team, and the guys could not believe it. Unfortunately, both their drivers, both Garth Tander and Rick Kelly, experienced a stall during their pit stops.
At a time when they could least afford it, particularly Tander as the race leader. Johnson rejoins and comes out 1, if not 2 positions higher than where he went in. He's ahead of his teammate, and he's going the biff on Bargwanna. Oh, literally. Oh no. 2 team cars involved in the incident, and Jason Bargwanna. And that is in the trickiest section of this circuit through the turns 2, 3, 4 complex. And it's hurt Johnson.
Stone brothers see this maybe as an opportunity here, Lee, so tyres back out for Ingall now.
Smoke, just wisps of smoke coming from Bargwanna's car, but it appears to be okay. Johnson is wounded, and so Davison.
Yeah, that's a great shame for both those DJR cars. And it looks like it's going to be another tough weekend, therefore, for Will Davison. Bizarre, isn't it?
Oh, he will not believe that. Zinger replay.
Oof. Tricky one from that angle to really figure out what's going on there, but 3 to 2 don't go. And the thing about the shape of the racetrack there is that the 1, 2, 3, 4 sequence is really awkward. They've all been talking about it this week. Oh. And Stephen got on the brakes just before Jason came across. I'm not too sure how race control will interpret that one.
Well, I know one thing to interpret, and that's Dick Johnson's lack of humour about that. He loves a joke, loves a laugh, Dick, but he will not see the funny side of that with both his cars involved in the one incident. Meanwhile, back to the front. This guy is setting the pace. However, Winterbottom and Ingall have just pitted. Owen yet to pit. There's a handful yet to complete their compulsory stops. When we come back, we'll have a revised order. We'll tell you all about it. An historical event for V8 Supercars, the first time racing in the Middle East. As we go inside the Dick Johnson Racing Garage, here's Will Davison's wounded number 18 Falcon.
Been watching the margin between Jason Bright and Garth Tander, and slowly but surely Tander's taking a couple of tenths here and there. He's been grabbing 2 and 3 tenths a lap as the second of the DJR cars arrives for service, and they're going to be there for a while, unfortunately.
Let's take a look at what's gone on here. Wow, Dean Canto rides high, jumping that tyre bundle on the inside as Whincup rounded him up on the outside. Well, when we thought everything was going to happen at turn 1, it's been happening at 2 and 3 and on the way up the hill to 4. So this is the battle that we're focused on. Ford v Holden, Bright versus Tander. These two guys have been the standout performers all weekend. The fast men. Ingle, Whincup fighting over the same piece of road. Canto's watching what's going on.
Bit of hip and shoulder. Russell's going to lose out on that one, so his corner exit speed down when he's off the road, so he'll take a little bit of monstering down here, and there's some damage to the left side of Dean's car after he rode up over that tyre bundle. The sill panel is damaged.
Just waiting on 2 cars to complete their compulsory stop, and that's Luff and Pither. As we go on board, Russell Ingall now looking at Dean Canto. Inside run down into 1. Moves him out of the way. It's a braking duel now. And someone... Is that sill panel you were talking about?
I think that's Dean's. In fact, you can see it's missing off the left side of the car.
Ingall gets him. Daz?
Stephen Johnson, a disappointing incident. How do you view that with Jason?
Well, I had a good pit stop, and we come out of the pits in front, and we're on the inside for turn 1 and the outside for turn 2, but he seemed to come straight across and take the front of the car off into turn 4. So, you know, it just didn't give me any racing room at all, and as far, you know, that's the way I saw it. So,
how's the car feel?
A bit strange. I don't know. We hit on the left front, and it's got damage on the right front suspension. I don't know why it's on that side. Maybe he pushed me across into the curb. I'm not sure, but it doesn't feel too good at the moment, mate.
Disappointing day for both you and Will in that incident.
Very unfortunate. Thanks, mate.
Kind of awkward because the shape of the road there makes it very difficult for cars to race side by side, because they peel off the Grand Prix circuit at turn 4 into that little short chute. Kind of makes for an unnatural run up the hill first, then second gear. Car slides all the way. It's like watching in Gymkhana. The cars slide their way up to turn 4. So whenever anyone's racing side to side there, it's going to be pretty much a recipe for disaster. And unfortunately, that's what's happened with those 3 cars, Bargwana and both the DJR cars.
Speaking of side by side, that's exactly what Lowndes and Dumbrell were. And they're fighting over 11th place. It will become 10th once Warren Luff pits for his compulsory stop. But that's not where Lowndes needs to be. He needs to be at the front of this field if he's going to take the fight to Rick Kelly for this championship. After this, when we head back to Australia, just 1 round remains. And that's the grand finale at Phillip Island in a fortnight's time. Zinger replay. What have we got here? Lowndes on Dumbrell.
Good move.
Very nice move.
And they did it between the two of them quite cleanly, so Craig was able to just sneak up the inside. That's in the little short chute between turns 7 and 8. Now here's the sill panel coming off the side of Dean Canto's GRM Valvoline Cummins Repco car, and it's just left it perched in the middle of the road, and he'd be unaware because he was in a huge braking duel at that stage with Russell Ingall. Oh, dearie me. It's, actually, you don't like seeing stuff like that. That's not good. Fortunately, that's been removed. That's always the danger when someone goes out on the racetrack to try and retrieve stuff. Oh, we've got a... Hey, look at the front left-hand corner of the Toll HSV car. That there's a fire or something there. Look at this.
Brakes.
They've got a huge brake drama going on. They must have some oil leaking in there, or... That was weird. Just caught a glimpse of it back there at turns 1, 2, 3. Yeah, smoke in the cabin, Garth Tander's reporting.
On the road, clear air, like a road up, okay.
Maybe he's picked up a bit of debris and something's having a little burn in there. There might be some oil. Rob Crawford talks to Matt Nilsson. He's the voice that you heard on the radio a moment ago talking to Tander. So he's narrowed the margin down dramatically, but they've got something weird happening there. Maybe he picked up a little bit of debris.
When that marshal ran out to grab that cell panel, he didn't grab all of it. There was something else there.
Did I see a flash of it again then?
We'll see here.
The battle's on for the lead, big time.
Let's have a better look here. Seems to have gone, huh? Warren Love has now pitted for his compulsory, so we get to the right order. 1 and 2. Bright first, Tander second. There's nothing in it. And the final 7 laps. The shortest race of 3 this weekend. Todd Kelly maintains his 3rd place, but as you can see, he is well and truly behind these 2 guys. James Courtney 4th, Rick Kelly 5th, Stephen Richards 6th. Jason Richards, Dean Canto.
Yep.
Turn 1, Scaife is 7th, Winterbottom 8th, Lowndes is 9th and Dumbrell 10th. That's how it looked from the rear of Russell Ingall's car. And plenty of isolated incidents throughout this race. Been quite eventful, but this is where it's important, at the front.
Pretty low light out there again, and the boys talked at the start of the show about the cloud cover, and just unbelievable that we could come to the Middle East and talking about cloud cover and potential for rain. We had those drops earlier. I'm fascinated by what it was that I saw on the front left-hand corner of GT's car there. Clearly not an issue there now, but puzzling over what it might have been. There might have been a little bit of debris in there. I know you asked me a question about it before, but I was listening to you, listening to the radio, watching the pictures, so I haven't quite got the answers at the moment. Could have been something he picked up, could have been something that cycled through the brake duct. The first thought was maybe sometimes when you see a little bit of oil in there, you know, if there's some weeping around any of the brake caliper seals or the bleed nipples on the caliper, then that oil can ignite. Think of what else it could be.
This is the fight for 4th. James Courtney fending off championship leader Rick Kelly. Further back, Whincup and Murphy. They're fighting over 11th place at the moment, and Russell Ingall's in the mix. Good driving by Russell. He started 19th, and he's up there vying for 11th. So that's plenty of positive positions made.
Pit lane drive-through penalty for Jason Richards, car number 3, for that incident with Dean Canto, 34. So Jason's going to have to serve that. Lots of people just limping at the moment. Their lap speeds really drifted like we thought. They're in the high 25s, many of them in the 26s, and when you get to about the middle of the field, you're talking about 27s. So this is the kind of tyre degradation that we used to see in the old days at Wanneroo, with the abrasion on the tyres, just makes the tyres skate.
Neil, your assessment about Garth Tander is absolutely spot on. I spoke a few moments ago with both Robbie Crawford and Matthew Nilsson, who say that data shows no indication of any serious brake-related dramas for Tander. They believe exactly as you say, that it's some sort of debris that's managed to somehow sneak inside the caliper there, and it's ignited. It's not a brake issue per se for Tander.
Big mover in the pack has been Mark Winterbottom, 15th to 8th. He is a championship contender, and they're important points that he has gained as we enter the closing period of this race. Stephen Johnson back out on track, but the fight is for first. Bright v Tander. We'll see how it shakes out when we come back. Working lap 22 of 27 here in Bahrain. Round 12 of the V8 Supercar Championship Series, and it's Bright and Tander going head to head. Jason Bright said earlier this week, before even turning a wheel on the Bahrain International Circuit, this kind of track, nice and smooth, really suits our car. I mean, look at what's happening.
When you look at the shot from the rear of the Cat car, from Jason's car, you can see what I assume to be the cable, which is part of the adjusting mechanism for the rear anti-roll bar, hanging very low on the car. I just noticed it on a couple of shots before. You have to be a little bit careful where he straddles curbs here and there. It looked unnaturally low. Maybe he's just grabbed it somewhere around the racetrack. Lap time then for both of them, 1:25.8. So they've dropped sort of 1.2, 0.3 seconds from their earlier pace, or well, about a second, in fact, because their best times are high 24. So they've actually held on pretty well consistency-wise, given that we've got 22 laps recorded. See that shot of Jason? See that there?
Yeah, hanging down. 6 seconds between Tander and Todd Kelly. so there's no immediate pressure on Tander. Does he have something left for Bright? Order remains unchanged further down as we pick up another Zinger replay, and John Bowe has been unloaded
from behind in quite a weird circumstance. That one, JB won't be too thrilled with that one.
And that was, it looked like it was the Paul Cruikshank Ford of Marcus Marshall.
Wow. So little issues for both of these cars. Total mystery in the left front corner of the Toll HSV car for Garth Tander. And just on certain shots, when you look from the rear of the Jason Bright car, you can see a cable hanging lower than it might otherwise do. You don't normally see it. See that? There was something, if it's not, I mean, it's part of the rear anti-roll bar adjuster cable, and it's just hung a little low. They're usually fastened to the diff housing. But I don't think it's going to cause any drama, but just looks a little abnormal. 25.7 for both of them on that lap. Great pressure motor racing.
Tander fades to the inside, just trying to put Jason Bright off a little. There's third, Todd Kelly. Here comes fourth and fifth, James Courtney, Rick Kelly. Then we go back to the man in black, Stephen Richards, who's had a very solid race. Then Scaife, Winterbottom, and Lowndes, who runs in ninth. There's Paul Dumbrell, 10th. Whincup shuffled out of the top 10, but has got ground on Murphy now. And then Russell Ingall runs in 13th place, just ahead of Cam McConville, and switch that. McConville's got him.
Will Davison, you have to say, Tasmania and the start here this weekend's been really promising for you, but the results not coming just yet.
Yeah, can't take a trick at the moment, and it's a shame because, you know, besides race 3 at Tassie, everything was looking pretty good. I was really trying to stay out of trouble, basically, and we ended up with a good result. And out of the box, we've been really strong here, and you know, I was actually disappointed to qualify 12th today. I think we had the potential to be a bit better, and you know, we weren't having the best run, but we were sort of maintaining position then, and we caught up in another accident of someone else's fault again. So anyway, must have a target on the back of my car, I think.
Disappointing day, Will.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but we'll be back tomorrow and try and charge through.
Thank you.
We weren't 100% sure which of the Valvoline cars was involved in that incident with John Bowe where he turned around. It was car number 34, Dean Cato, and he will get a drive-through penalty for his trouble. So he's been shown the black flag and he'll zing through the pit lane.
Take that back to before McConville, of course, hadn't got Ingall. It was Murph who was ahead of Russell. Meanwhile, at the front, laps are running out for Garth Tander to shake Jason Bright down.
These guys are in the 26s now. 6-1 for Jason, 6-0 for Tander. Officially, it was just under 0.3 of a second margin between the two of them at the control line last time through.
Great work, mate.
Phil Key, words of encouragement. Garth Tander just looking for a little cool air there. Todd Kelly in third, James Courtney fourth, and then Rick Kelly just lurking along in fifth, further consolidating his points position. 93 points against his name for where he sits at the moment. Craig Lowndes has 80, so he makes another net gain of 13.
A little bit of sun as Canto serves his drive-through penalty late in the afternoon. It's almost 4:05 local time here in Bahrain, and two longer races coming up tomorrow, an extra 10 laps in tomorrow's two races, so that should make things interesting. Will it still be a Bright Tander affair? It's hard to bet against them, isn't it? Here's fourth and fifth, Courtney and Kelly.
Amazing light, isn't it? Look at how yellow it is. You walk outside in and around the facilities here, and the glare, we're just accustomed to trees and grass and all of the things that make an Australian landscape. Look at this. Big crisscross manoeuvres down the end of the front straight. And Tander having a real aggressive look now at the back of Bright. The point that I was going to finish off there is that here it's just all light and bright and very, very glaring.
They will want to catch Canto on this short shoot up to turn 6. Unless he has the speed to escape. It could be Tander's opportunity to get by Jason Bright. Time is running out. We're inside the final 2 laps.
Garth just disappearing to the right here, just to vanish a little in his mirrors and try and just poke and probe there. He's got a tiny bit more pace, but not much. It's seesawing between the two of them.
Tander coming off a magnificent round at Symmons Plains where he won the round. He's won 6 races this season. If Tander were to win here, he would draw level with Mark Scaife on 7 wins in the 2006 season.
Tander got a good exit there. He was able to maybe just make a cleaner run of the approach. Jason had to turn in early just to be a little defensive. again. Tander hangs up high, trying to just make sure that he gets a good square exit with no wheel spin. It's second gear off the final corner, 90 kilometres an hour, building to just on 275. They're using the 3.25 to 1 diff ratio that was formerly used at Bathurst for many years until just recently. So the cars are quick when they zap by in the main straight, then down to this very slow right-hander. Option here for either first or second gear. 60 Ks. Oh. And Rick Kelly sneaks underneath James Courtney. A little bit of bump and grind at turn 4 and gets the job done.
Pounced, didn't he? Very opportunistic move. Final lap. We're on our way home. Wonderful to see the V8s on this incredible facility, this track, 200 million Australian dollars worth. Long time in the making. Formula One has had 2 events here. Last year and this, it opened the season this year. And for the first time, the roar of the V8s in the Middle East. And more, the majority of the weekend to come tomorrow with 2 races completing round 12. Last half a lap now. Well done, Jason Bright. He won the opener at Simmons Plains, and then Tander went on to dominate the rest of the weekend. Will it be the same here in Bahrain? And this will notch up Jason Bright's 5th win of the year and consolidate his championship position. Bright does it in Bahrain. Wins the first ever V8 supercar race in the Middle East. The Cat Ford successful, and guess what? The big boss is here. David Richards, the chairman of ProDrive, as Rod Barrett congratulates his men. Tim Edwards and the team will be delighted. And their second car in Mark Winterbottom made incredible ground from 15th to 8th. So a very strong day for FPR. But Bright's the man over Tander. Todd Kelly 3rd, and championship leader Rick Kelly extends his points margin over Craig Lowndes.
Good race. Great race between these 2 guys. They really did a fantastic job. Pretty good recovery for Russell Ingall, got up to 13th. You talked about him before, Lee. Not a bad performance. Now, 17 points extra is the gain that Rick Kelly has made over Craig Lowndes significantly in this race. Rick finishing 4th, Craig finishing in 9th.
When you look at the big picture, and here is Lowndes, as you mentioned, finished in 9th. When you look at the big picture, and we take ourselves back to Phillip Island last year, and the immense pressure that was on this man here, Russell Ingall, to get every little point to try and win the championship, that move that Rick Kelly just put on James Courtney could be the difference between winning or losing, although in saying that, he has a very comfortable championship lead over Craig Lowndes. There's Dave Richards, the big boss. Well, when he came to the Clipsal 500 and to Bathurst, they were nightmare rounds. Well, that run of bad luck has ended with Dave Richards in their presence, because now they are on top. Ford Performance Racing and Jason Bright victorious in Bahrain. The VB scoreboard shows us our top 10 with Team Better Electricals, Craig Lowndes and Jamie Whincup finalising those last 2 positions. Dumbrell, Murphy, Ingall, McConville, they all had a pretty good scrap. Barguana will be frustrated to be 15th, but he's in the top half of the field, and a good solid run from Lee Holdsworth as well. And we get back to the boys who experienced some trouble. Bow turned around late in the race, and then Marcus Marshall, Jack Perkins had his time facing the wrong direction, so too Jason Richards. So there were some eventful occasions out there during that 27-lap race, but not so for these 2 guys. Tander will be kicking himself for the stall in the pit stop. That could have been the difference between winning or finishing 2nd. It's immaterial now, isn't it? Because Brighty's the man. 5th race win of the year. Congratulated by the man who hounded him for the latter half of the race. And that's a nice one to put in his resume. Winning the first ever V8 supercar race in Bahrain.
Fastest lap of the race, Jason Bright, by a tiny margin over Garth Tander as well, 124.9102. It's been a great run for them, hasn't it, just in the last 12 months? And,
well, and the other thing they look at too, Neil, is the team's championship. We'll come back to that. Here's Daz.
Well, Jason, what a way to start a fantastic weekend.
It is, mate. It's we had a great car then. It's we worked pretty hard this weekend to make sure we had a good race package, and I think it hung onto its tyres as well as anything else out there. So Cat Falcon, hopefully we can make it 1, 2, 3.
There's been a lot of talk over the weekend about brakes and the tyres were going away so early. What was your feeling now that you've done one race?
It was hard work because the tyres do go away, and you could see that everyone was going to be in that trouble just after practice, and we were sort of hanging in as well as Garth there early on in the race, and after the pit stop he probably had a little bit more pace, and we had to work pretty hard to hold him back there at the end. But the car's strong, and I think we've got a pretty good direction on what we need to do for the other couple of races. But 1 out of 1 so far.
Well done for race 1.
Thanks, Taz.
Greg.
Just walking from Park for May back up towards the Toll HSV dealer team garage. Garth Tander, firstly, some spectacular pictures in relation to your brakes. Were there any problems for you, and what do you think caused it?
Yeah, I think we had a blocked brake duct. Bridie ran over a bit of debris and I didn't get a chance to see it. I saw it right at the last minute, tried to swerve, and it must have blocked the radiator duct up. So that hurt the braking fairly heavily, and actually heated the front tyre up, got a lot of understeer, so I couldn't really get past Bridie.
You seem to be searching for some cool air towards the end. Do you feel you had the faster car? Could you have passed him if you had a little more time?
Oh yeah, no doubt. I don't know if we had the faster car. I don't know if we could have got past him because we just didn't have the braking capacity that we needed with that blocked duct. But I got in front of Bridie at Simmons Plains when he had a stall, and I stalled at this time and he got in front, so we won all.
All right, well, we hope tomorrow brings some better luck. Good point you make too.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Nice when you see the boys thoroughly enjoying their racing. It's been hot, not as hot as we expected, but they've still had to work hard for it. And tomorrow, it's an extra 10 laps in each race. But stick around. More from Bahrain when we return.
They had a one-nighter overseas, but it was just a fling.
I suppose we haven't really talked about what happened.
It was kind of an accident.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't think we can call that one an accident.
He's not in lust.
Can't you see I'm crazy about it?
He's in love.
You okay?
Yep.
Problem is, she's about to marry someone else.
Watch the season finale to see if he gets his girl.
Tripping Over season final, 8:30 Wednesday.
Got any more tricks?
Sure do. Hey, KFC's new boneless burger meal. Your favourite burger meal now with a piece of KFC's boneless chicken. It's all great taste, no bones about it. Ta-da! KFC's boneless burger meal.
There's more to this story than a dead cockroach. What about the germs they carry?
The power is yours.
Only Beg on germ.